Friday, y'all.
Joining us now, Will East, Program Director here at SuperTalk, and also the host of the High School Scoreboard Show. High school football getting underway there, Will.
It is underway. This is not maybe technically week one, but we kind of consider it week one because this is when most of the public schools will start play. We've had some MAIS schools play the past couple of weeks. MRA, for example, is 2-0 already. But most of the teams will get started tonight. We had a few games last night. Maybe the biggest one was Ocean Springs taking on Clinton. And Ocean Springs, very good team. They've got that quarterback, Bray Hubbard, had a really big night last night, and they beat Clinton. I think it was 31-13 final score. But this year, Gerard, every year kind of has a theme in the way I look at it. You don't know initially what it's going to be. You have an idea, but you don't know initially. Some years it's offense. Every team has just this dynamic offense, it seems like. Or maybe it's defense.
Yeah.
Some years it's weirdness. It's something off the field, like 2020 was just a weird year, obviously.
Yeah.
And then last year, it seems like the theme of the year was youth. And we had a lot of juniors. Not to say we didn't have some standout seniors, because we certainly did, but it seemed like most teams that did well had just a lot of standout sophomores and juniors. Well, now those juniors are now seniors, and so I would say this year's theme going in is experience and maturity. We have the word that you'll hear, or the term that you'll hear me use a lot on the Scoreboard Show and the Scoreboard Preview Show and my interviews this week. You've heard me say the word returning starters a lot.
Okay.
And returning starters in high school football, that is typically the big number. If you want me to pick a team over another team, tell me how many returning starters they have. If they have returning starters, typically they're going to be pretty good. Now, if they were bad last year and they have a lot of returning starters, maybe they're not so good. But if they made a deep playoff run last year and they have a lot of returning starters, that means that they're probably going to have a good season this year. And I look at all these rosters, and I see a ton of returning starters. We've got some teams that have as many as 10 returning starters, and they made a deep playoff run last year. And I see that kind of on a lot of these teams that are kind of predicted to do well in the season.
Well, that's interesting. So that would mean that there were a lot of high-quality underclassmen.
A lot of high-quality underclassmen. There's a big recruiting class for this year, I would say.
Yeah.
And you just see a lot of this Bray Hubbard kid, the one for Ocean Springs who did so well last night.
Yep. Quarterback
who's committed to Alabama, had 3 touchdowns, only 1 incompletion on the night, and 270-something yards overall, 3 touchdowns. Last year was a junior. I think he was the 6A player of the year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So he's back again this year. That's kind of what you're seeing across the board. But looking at the teams from top to bottom in 6A, we like to start with 6A since it's the largest classification. This, by the way, will be the last year that 6A is the largest classification. Next year we're going to 7A, so we'll have a 7A through 1A on the public side of things. But this year 6A is still the biggest. Brandon's probably the team to beat. They're another team that had a lot of standout juniors last year who are now seniors. Nate Blunt, the running back there, they went to the state championship game where they lost to Madison Central. I would say that Brandon is probably your number one team. Starkville is another team that had a lot of young players last year. They did really well in the regular season, got knocked out by Madison Central kind of early on in the playoffs. They're returning a lot of those star players like Trey Petty, the quarterback there at Starkville. Madison Central is another team. Won the state championship in 6A last year. Vic Sutton, the quarterback, is going to be back again this year. Oak Grove, Ocean Springs, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, and maybe Oxford. So those are some of the teams. And then, on down the list, I just see a lot of potentials for rematches. That's another word that you'll hear me say a lot is the word rematch. Last year, Madison Central and Brandon were in the 6A state championship game. It is not out of the question for those two to be back again.
Yeah.
In 5A, Picayune and West Point went to the state championship game. Picayune is going to be your number one team in 5A, and West Point is going to be your number 2 team in 5A coming into this season. So, again, that's not out of the question. In 4A, kind of the same situation. Columbia, the team that won the state championship in 4A last year. Now, they did graduate a lot of players, but they seem pretty confident about the players they have coming back. And, of course, they had a lot of blowouts last year, so a lot of those sophomores and juniors actually got playing time last year. So they're pretty confident, and I would say they're probably the team to beat in 4A this year, along with teams like Mendenhall and Poplarville and Louisville, one of the most successful teams in Mississippi high school football history.
Yeah. What about our coverage?
Well, we're going to have teams on just about every SuperTalk Mississippi radio station. So if you're tuning in again, game starting at 7:30 this early part of the season, this first month of the season. Games will start at 7:30 in October. They'll move back to 7, but we'll have games on just about every SuperTalk station. You can also stream a lot of these games on supertalk.fm. In fact, you can go to supertalk.fm/high school, and you can get scores, up to the minute scores, and you can get the streams for all the teams that we carry all in one place. And these are up to the, again, I say up to the minute scores because high school football is nowhere near where college football is. It is difficult to get scores sometimes. You still have to know somebody in a certain town to get a score for a certain team. But we do our best to have the scores up to the minute as they happen at supertalk.fm/high school. The other thing is, of course, we're doing scoreboard shows. I've got the scoreboard preview show, which starts at 6 p.m. tonight, immediately following Sports Talk Mississippi. And then we have the full Mississippi Farm Bureau Insurance Company High School Football Scoreboard Show at 10 o'clock, as we have for the past 28 years, I think, somewhere in that number. It's a lot. Keith and Butch will be back again this year. I've got Lance Tolbert going to be adding to the team this year. I'll be there. And I think Butch and Keith, I think it's their 20th year on the show.
It's good. They do a good job.
Yeah, they're
no doubt
really knowledgeable.
So the bottom line is you can tune in to any of our stations across the state, and you're likely to get a football game.
Yep. We do high school football. We're very passionate about it, as you can tell, and we really do enjoy it. And I'm going to tell you, this year is just – there's so much – it seems like we're finally out of that COVID haze that was around for a little bit last year, but it seems like we're finally past that. I don't think last year we still had forfeits and we had games missed because of COVID. Hopefully, knock on wood, this season we won't have that. We're still dealing with some issues, though. Referee shortage, that's still a big thing. In fact, tonight I think we're going to have our first all-female referee crew. I can't remember which game off the top of my head that's going to be in. I think it's in the Delta somewhere, but it's going to be all-female referees. I think it's the first time in Mississippi history. Maybe in the United States history, I don't know, of high school football. And we've got some other stuff going on. Of course, everybody this morning is talking about the big fight.
Yeah, tell us about that.
So last night at Wayne County was taking on Quitman, and those two teams were, Wayne County, a powerhouse program for many, many years. But there was a little altercation in the stands, and it seems like a head coach of another school, not one of the two on the field, got into an altercation, and there's video of it, believe it or not, of him fighting in the stands and kind of the aftermath of what happens there. The details we're still kind of sorting out the details about what happened exactly, but you can go to supertalk.fm/sports, and I think it's the top story there, and read all about it, and also watch the video if you so choose.
Unbelievable. All right, so on the C-Spire text line, Steve on the road says, hey, y'all don't forget about the Greenville St. Joseph Fighting Irish. Know anything about that?
Yes. I think they have a quarterback that's committed to Navy, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
Maybe he graduated last year off the top. I'm going off the top of my head here. But I remember Steve Azar telling me about it.
Yeah.
That they had a quarterback that was committed to Navy, of all places. That's pretty incredible.
Ed from New Hope wants to know about West Point.
West Point's, they've been in the state championship game, 7 years in a row, 6 years in a row now. They've lost the last two state championship games. They lost to West Jones, and then last year they lost to Picayune. But Chris Chambliss, the head coach there, they only have 4 returning starters on offense, 4 returning starters on defense. But that coach and that team, you just have to almost automatically – I hate to do it, but you almost automatically have to put them in the top 5 no matter what until they prove you wrong. Right? Year after year, they have had great players there. They've graduated those great players, and they've somehow reloaded for the next year. You don't go to that many state championship games in a row without doing something right. And tonight, they will play Louisville. And I think this is the most combined state championships between two teams that we've ever had.
Wow.
I think those two teams have 11 state championships in the past.
Between them?
Yeah, but in the last 15 years, something like I think 21 overall.
I know they're there a lot.
It's incredible. Louisville, Tyrone Shorter, just an incredible coach there. And I think with Ricky Woods retiring at South Panola, I think he has the most state championships of any public high school head coach.
Okay, Jared on the C Spire text line, before you go, wants to know who you have over East Central and Biloxi.
Well, East Central's a growing team, and they've been really good in the past. Biloxi's just they've kind of wavered there. I would say East Central for right now.
Got you. Will East, ladies and gentlemen, the program director here at SuperTalk Mississippi and also the host of the High School Scoreboard Show. Thanks for coming on, Will.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We'll step aside here on middays. A lot more.